Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv. Here we are with today's segment of Echoes from the Chalkboard at Sugar House Park, the site of the old territorial penitentiary that used to sit here. Why is this relevant to old schools of Salt Lake City? Well, you're going to find out. Because what usually happens in prisons, particularly old territorial prisons, that's right, there was executions and some deaths. Why is that relevant to, say, a school? Well, we are in Sugar House Park. Find out here in a moment on Echoes from the Chalkboard, the Halloween edition.
This monument that I'm standing in front of marks the site of the Utah State Penitentiary. Selected by Brigham Young in October of 1853, this then safe 6 miles from the city of the center building was made of adobe brick surrounded by a 12-foot wall, and it was occupied in January of 1855. Early accounts indicate that the escapes were frequent because of the poor facilities and lack of guards. In 1866, the penitentiary was renovated. The 3 buildings, wall and guardhouses, were upgraded to stone. Later, a dining hall, hospital, and women's quarters were added. By 1882, the penitentiary included 244 steel cells and a 250-capacity chapel. A new 19-foot wall enclosed 2 acres. A large area surrounding the prison was used by inmates to farm and raise livestock for their consumption. Well, here's a picture of the old territorial prison as it sat there in Sugar House Park on the area where I was standing. And what's so significant about this is, well, in prisons, quite often, they would have executions. And, well, a lot of prisoners, not a lot, but some would die of illnesses as well. And kind of makes you wonder not only where they buried them, but what happened to the remains. Are they still there in the park? And here is how that area looks today. That nice flat area, park, just beautiful venue. And who would ever think that this old building, which is here in this picture, kind of on the bottom left, once sat. The wall at the very top on the right, well, it almost goes to 1500 East. That was the extent of the main wall of the prison. And here's a picture of the main road into the front part of the prison back in 1950. Here's a look at the north wall that sat actually in what would be about the middle of 21st South today, as 21st South was widened after the prison was taken out. But some of the homes that are off in the distance on that picture are still standing today. And the place where executions were taken care of was kind of in that northeast corner. Up by the blacksmith shop, they would open up the door, they'd stick their rifles through the door and fire. Put you up against the wall and fire. Now here's a view from the wall looking west, again down 2100 South. Kind of gives you some idea of where this prison sat and really how close it was to Highland High School.
You can see that grove of pine trees off in the distance. And up on top of that hill, that's where the old prison used to sit. And this was the grounds. But beautiful area now, and you would never believe that at one point in time this is where the territorial prison sat. And of course this is just the very edge of the property of what is now Highland High School.
And here's a view from the prison down into the prison farm that was down into that lower area, approximate area of where I took that last video from. So this is all kind of interesting. So what does this have to do with the price of the rice in China? Well, as I was studying the Sugar House Park area of today and the prison that used to be there, I wondered, these executions, and I wondered if they even had them there. And I eventually found out they had, but where had they buried the prisoners? What had happened to them? And more interestingly than that, what happened to them when Highland High School was built and Sugar House Park was made when they tore down the old prison. So I asked some of the custodians that used to be at Highland many, many years ago, and nobody seemed to know much about it. Although one of them did say, I swear that the boiler room area is haunted. I know that I have heard some very strange things down there. Well, this was interesting and all, but didn't affect me much until one day when I was up visiting the grave of a friend who had recently passed away in this new part of the city cemetery, which is above the main road. And I come across this big headstone, and this area that's cleared out here, and there's no headstones in it, kind of a mass grave, if you will. And come to find out, in looking at this, and there's the road, this new area of the cemetery. Here is this headstone dedicated to those who died at the Utah State Penitentiary. And I was able to find out that, yes, during those executions, those who could be picked up by family members were, and those who could not, well, they were buried just east of the main wall, there in the old penitentiary grounds. And so when they tore down the old prison and sold the property around 1952, they dug these guys up and they reinterred them up in the city cemetery in this upper area. Oh, some things really made sense now. This got me doing some research, and in looking at it, I found that there were about 25 inmates that were put to death there at the old territorial prison over the years. Some were cop killers, some were wife murderers, some had killed some kids, and there were some that had committed armed robberies and murder at the same time. Whoa, this definitely would set the hairs on end as to what kind of people you had at the old territorial prison. And with it being so close to where Highland High School now sits, it kind of made me start to wonder about the stories that some of my friends had told me about noises they'd heard at Highland. I decided to dig deeper, and I found that Matthew Berger, who was the warden in 1876, was killed in a prison riot there on the east wall of the prison. And here's Warden Berger back when he was in the Civil War in his Union outfit. A very handsome young man, came out here at request of one of his former commanders and became the warden there at the territorial prison, and was killed in 1876 and interred up at the Fort Douglas Military Cemetery. So I decided to go investigating at Highland High School and looking around some of the areas that I have access to. And I found this kind of an interesting area here, and I thought, man, let me turn out the lights and see what I can find. Let's see if down here in the catacombs of the building, if I turn out the lights for a few minutes, if anything strange will happen. Could this be the echoes of the gurgling sound of the dying warden echoing through the lower parts of the building? Who knows? But we'll continue to investigate and see if anything else strange comes of our stories at Highland. But let's move on to some of the other buildings here in Salt Lake City, some of the other schools, some of the other stories. Let's move on to the old East High School, built in 1912. What a magnificent place this was when it was built. It was the jewel in the crown of Salt Lake City, up there on 1300 East overlooking the whole city. I had the opportunity to work there in 1983. I worked in the evenings, and I had a lot of opportunities to go around different areas of the building and explore while I worked there. I remember one night I was asked to lock up, and as I was securing the building, it was 11 o'clock at night. I knew nobody else was in the building. I'd checked everything, and I hear the elevator go up to the top floor, to the 5th floor. I hear the door open, and it comes down. It stops on what's called the mezzanine, or the 2nd floor. And I thought for sure somebody would get off, but I could see there was no shadow of in the light of the door opening. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe they just pushed the wrong button. So then it comes all the way down to the 1st floor, and I'm expecting to see a teacher get out of this elevator. The door opens and nothing. There is nobody. And the door closes and it goes back up to the 5th floor. Needless to say, I set a world record in setting the alarm and running out the door as fast as I could. And I told my boss, I said, I do not ever want to lock up this building again alone. Thank you very much. Now let's move on to the administration building on 440 East and 100 South in Salt Lake City. What possibly strange things could we have there? Well, some of the custodians that have worked there at nights over the years have told stories about strange sightings of ghostly-looking people and strange noises. Why would there be any reason for something like that? Well, before the administration building was built, this actually used to be a old LDS meeting house. And after it was used as a meeting house, well, it became a school. It was known as the School for the Mentally Deficient. Ooh, that sounds like it could mean crazy people? Could some of those noises come from the former students of that particular school? Or maybe some of the apparitions that were noticed by the night crew could be from some of the people that died or had funerals at the old Congregational church that used to sit right there on the corner where the administration building is now. This building burnt down. Bet you there's some interesting stories there. Anyway, moving on from the administration building to another interesting haunt. One that several people in Salt Lake City who've lived here for a long time will recognize this building here. The old Lincoln Junior High on State Street and 1300 South. Well, that building sat vacant for many, many years, and there was a story from one of the former custodians who worked there at night, who said one evening he heard a noise up on the second floor, and it was only a two-story building. And he said, I heard somebody walking down the stairs, and I went to the staircase thinking there'd be a teacher that was just hobbling down the stairs because it took so darn long, and there was nobody. And so he went upstairs with his flashlight, and in the distance there was a door open to one of the classrooms, and he saw a woman in a white dress walk into this classroom. He walked down there only to find that there was nobody in that classroom. He says the hair on the back of his neck stood up. He ran down the stairs, and he locked the building as quickly as he could and got the heck out of there and asked that he be transferred the very next day. Moving from Salt Lake City to the Magna area, the old Magna School, also known as Webster, it was built in the early part of the 20th century. This building was on the register of the most haunted places in Utah for many, many years. There were several apparitions that were seen in this building by different paranormal investigators. There was a lot of strange noises when the building was occupied as a school. There were even reports of people walking on the street seeing faces in the windows at night. Now, this building burnt down in the early part of the 21st century and unfortunately was lost to history. But what stories were there to be told? We don't know, but there needs to be more investigation done because obviously people were spooked by some things that happened here.
Well, that was a fun little snippet. There's a lot more stories, of course, and I didn't want to keep you guys all the rest of this month just looking at this one video. So we're going to break it up. There's going to be some other times that we'll talk about some of the haunted places and haunted schools, and particularly some of the stories. There's quite a few stories out there. These were just a few very short ones that I have collected over the years. Eventually we'll probably put out some book. That might be kind of fun. But hope you enjoyed this segment of Echoes from the Chalkboard, the Halloween edition. And if you liked it, if you like what you saw, please hop on over to the channel, and there you'll be able to see all of the videos that I've got, and there'll be some opportunity for you to subscribe. And if you subscribe, not only will you be really cool, but, well, really, really cool, but You will also get a notification whenever I download something. It'll say, hey, Mad Dog Merv has just downloaded something. And hopefully it'll be something that you're interested in. So head on over, go ahead and like and subscribe, and we will see you soon on another adventure.